Hey everyone, welcome to Don't Worry Wednesday, the show where we discuss any issues or challenges you may be having. The concern we are handling in this segment comes from Princess Yellow, and it reads, "Sleep is an unavoidable need for our body and mind. As I might have told you before, I won't take naps because I've gotten some pretty strong nightmares after taking it. It can be really hard to get past those sometimes, so I was wondering two things for those who out there also suffer from nightmares. Do you have any advice on how to calm yourself down enough to find the courage to try sleeping again? Since I know for many, the way to cope is to not sleep until the next absolutely unavoidable time. Do you have any advice on how to not get nightmares anyhow? A dream catcher worked for me until it was lost when we moved. So I don't know if you have any ideas." And that's from Princess Yellow. Thank you, Princess, for posting that.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan, do you have any thoughts on the issue of nightmares?
I suppose I do. When I was young, when I was a little kid, I remember having nightmares, and whenever I did, my mom would get me out of bed and she would move me to the living room and she would have me sleep in the living room. I'll tell you that it helped every single time. And I don't know exactly why, but even to this day, if I'm suffering from a nightmare or something, usually I just go back to sleep because I know it's just a dream and it can't really hurt me. But, there have been cases where I go to sleep and then I have a nightmare and I go back to sleep and then it's the nightmare continuing and then I go back to sleep and it's a nightmare and I'm like, okay, time to switch things up, right? Time to not just deal with that all night. And so then I move to the living room or a different location and then I go to sleep there. And I'll tell you that almost always helps. And if it doesn't help right away, usually like that would be the last dream that was a nightmare and then it won't be anymore. There won't be any more nightmares. That's honestly the best advice that I can give. I mean, you obviously know that it's a dream and it can't really hurt you, but it does affect you mentally for sure, right? I mean, the dream still happened and you might feel like, what's the word? Affected by it. Emotionally affected by it. And so it just takes courage getting over that, I suppose. Keeping in mind or reminding yourself like, hey, I've got control over my feelings. That was a nightmare. I didn't actually do those things, or those things didn't actually happen to me, and I'm going to be okay. And we all have to remind ourselves of that. Sometimes on a daily basis that, hey, you know what? I'm going to be okay. But I can understand when you have a dream and it wakes you up because it's so intense. It's hard to go back to sleep. You don't want to go back into that. And sometimes you do end up falling asleep and going right back into it. And so what I would suggest is a change of setting. I think I could talk to you about a spiritual level that might be affecting that, but that's probably for later. But more so, I think in our minds, you change your setting, your brain now no longer, it's out of place, but at the same time, now, you've changed your setting and it makes it easier to have a different dream, I suppose, a change of pace. You change your setting and then you have a change of pace. And that's true for a dream catcher. A dream catcher is something that's there, that is a physical object that your brain remembers exists when you sleep. And your brain remembers that exists when you sleep. And so it helps direct your brain's functions while you sleep. I don't know if you've ever experienced lucid dreams or dreams where you are literally awake and dreaming at the same time, able to stare at different objects in the room while sleeping. Or if you know exactly how dreams work, but dreams are kind of like a fluid form of thought that interacts often with things that are going on outside, like that your brain is trying to explain. So if you are sleeping and someone drops a rock on the floor and you hear it, your dream will try to go, okay, how did that fit in the dream? And then it'll be like, okay, so that and that just happened. Well, I guess I would just insert this right here. And that rock falling sound was probably my mom shutting the door in the dream. Your brain makes these weird functions. And so you tell a story not in a normal timeline, but you perceive it in normal timeline, even though you're really inserting chunks here and here and here and there and forming a story out of it. And then when you wake up, the moment before you wake up, you remember all of the different things that happened as a sequence, even though it generally actually was never a sequence. It's kind of interesting. But having things that help your brain keep on track, and I think that's exactly what a dream catcher does. It helps your mind go, oh, but I got that dream catcher, and that's going to make me feel good. So only good things will happen to me, and it's a very subconscious motion that keeps you on track. And so sometimes changing your room, that's what I would suggest. I've done that, and that usually helps for me. Yeah, and I'm wondering what Joe might have to say about this then.
Yeah, well, nightmares it's really interesting. I used to have a recurring nightmare about falling up.
Isha has a nightmare. Pretty cool. Okay.
Well,
it's probably scary. I mean,
it is. Well, because I kept thinking I'm gonna have to come back down, and I'm like way high up in the air.
Oh, yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Like I'd be getting shot up in the air by something, and then I'd just be way up in the air, and then I'm like, and then I would wake up before I would descend too far,
Yeah.
But and it's crazy when you have a nightmare that feels so real, and your adrenaline's going, just like Princess had said in the chat. It's like your adrenaline's going, your heart's pumping, and you're like, oh, and you're like sweating, and it's like, oh my gosh, it can really freak you out and make you. I can understand your apprehension of going to sleep. These days, I'm so stinking busy that I don't sleep very much at all, and so when I sleep, I'm pretty much dead. And like I don't remember my dreams very much because I'm so exhausted when I go to sleep, and then also during the day. So that's one thing you can do, is just exhaust yourself completely before you fall asleep. Like when you go to sleep, you're so tired, you're just like
so tired your brain can't even function to tell a story.
Right. Exactly. But like Ryan said, one thing about the dream catcher is it can, just knowing that it's there can give you a sense of security in your subconscious mind, because you associate that item with security and with having good dreams. And it's the same type of effect for people, like when we're young, maybe we have a teddy bear or a stuffed animal that's like kind of like our sense of security, and that happens all throughout life. We have things that we place value on that then set our mind at ease, or then remind us to do certain things, or all these different things. It's great to have something that can do that for you. And if a dream catcher does that, then buy a dream catcher. Buy one for your car, buy one for your room. I take a lot of naps in my car because I spend my days driving. And so, I'll just be exhausted. And so I'll pull off into a roadside, rest stop or whatever, and just like tip my seat back, take a 15-minute nap.
Son is offended.
Oh, when you were young.
I know, she's just kidding.
Sorry. Hey. We can be. I'm 40 years young.
There you go.
So, hey. But at any rate, one thing you can do also practically, since dreams come from our subconscious mind, And oh, sidebar, lucid dreaming. For those of you who can lucid dream, I'm jealous.
Yeah, that sounds
I
awesome.
hope I hope one day I have the time to train myself to do lucid dreaming, because that just sounds so much fun. If I could lucidly dream, I would like make myself fly all the time, you know, because that'd be great. But at any rate, dreams come. They're in our subconscious mind. So one thing you can do is start to program your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind acts on memories, feelings. You know, it you can reprogram it through generating memories with all the senses. A great book I'm reading right now called Psycho-Cybernetics talks about the fact that your subconscious mind cannot tell the difference between a real memory or a vividly imagined memory that wasn't real, just something you
Right.
made up, but you imagined it vividly and got all the senses involved, and you were relaxed when you did it. You know, your subconscious mind will treat that as real, and it will assimilate that memory into your memory bank and treat it as though it actually happened to you. And so you can visualize things like that. What I would recommend doing is taking time. You know, I remember I used to be plagued by nightmares a lot more until I went through this program where I had to do a certain amount of visualization. And so what I'd do is I'd get myself relaxed. I'd get in a really comfortable chair or lay down on my bed, and I would, you just lay there and breathe deep and pay attention to your breathing, and you try and empty your mind. So you just try and get all the thoughts to just let go. You just dismiss your thoughts. If a thought comes in your mind, you say, thank you, and I dismiss you, and just dismiss it, and just relax and dismiss your thoughts, and then just focus on your breathing patterns. Focus on deep breathing, and and then as you relax, then imagine your feet and your hands to be bricks of cement. Like they're super heavy. They're made of cement, and you can't even lift them because they're so heavy. And so your feet and your hands are made of cement, and then it just kind of creeps. Then your arms and your whole legs made of cement, and you just can't move. And you're there, and then
And you're not trying to either. It's not a nightmare.
right, yeah, exactly. But you, so you can do this, and then when you get to the point where you're relaxed, and you end up in the state where it almost feels like you're having an out-of-body experience. At least that's what happened for me. I felt like I was just a mind, and my body didn't really exist because it was so relaxed that it felt like I didn't even have it, you know? And at that moment, then you can start programming your subconscious mind. Sometimes you can go through a little extra exercise where if you're having trouble getting deeper, you can imagine going down a flight of stairs with each breath you take. Each step is a breath. So one step. Then you do it again. Deep breath, inhale, exhale, another step. And you go down 10 stairs. And then when you're at the bottom of the steps, then you're in a state where you can feed your subconscious mind images, and you can reprogram your subconscious. And the idea is to get all of your senses involved and think of good things, good positive things that are the opposite of what you're having nightmares about. So, if you're having nightmares about being trapped in an enclosed space, I don't know if you suffer from claustrophobia and your nightmare is you're stuck in a box or an elevator or something, and you can imagine being in an open field running free, just the exact opposite of whatever the thing is that frightens you in your nightmare. And you can start reprogramming your subconscious with more and more thoughts of the nature that you want to, that are the opposite of your nightmares. And then what will happen is when you then fall asleep and you dream, your subconscious mind will replay that stuff more. It will be more likely to replay something that you've programmed into your mind that way. So it's very interesting that you asked this question right now, because I'm currently going through the book Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. And it really, if you want to understand the inner workings of your mind, like the subconscious mind, and how to actually harness it and use it to help you move forward, that's the book to get. And Psycho-Cybernetics. It sounds like a really boring title.
It sounds like sci-fi to me. It sounds cool.
Yep, but it's very, very good at helping, to reprogram your mind and to get your mind working for you instead of working against you. Because we are not our minds. We are separate from our minds. Our essence of being is something separate than our body or our mind. We have been given a body and a mind as something to use, something to, it's like a tool. It's like a mechanism. And this book explains how this mechanism works and how you can, make adjustments to it. So I would definitely encourage Psycho-Cybernetics by Dr. Maxwell Maltz. And it's a hefty read. It's got some big words in there, but yeah.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. Definitely, because it is your subconscious mind, and being able to program it outside of your sleep will help you when you do sleep. People who have nightmares are often people who have nightmares. What I mean by that is people who are afraid of having nightmares are the people that are most likely to get them, because that's on their mind when they're sleeping. I hope I don't get a nightmare again tonight, and then you will, because you're thinking
it's
about
the last
it.
thing on your mind.
Yeah, and then when you go to sleep, your brain is like, okay, how do I make this a sweet nightmare? All right, so first we start off with this. Oh no, I thought about that. And now that happens, and then, your mind just runs wild with it. Which, on that note, one thing I would highly suggest is staying, I'm sure you already do this, but stay away from things that can alter your mind. Substances that alter your mind in the way that it works naturally. So things like caffeine, things like, I know you don't do this, but alcohol, things like, that type of thing. I don't know, there's all sorts of different chemicals. You know more about that stuff than I do, I'm sure. But there's mind altering substances that are in in daily food and drinks, like caffeine and so on. So try to stay away from those things before you go to sleep, because they will definitely make your mind run wild and be less easy to control. Yeah,
and if there's anything transdermal that you use, there are patches. That's like a medication that goes through your skin. So like a patch of any kind. It's funny that way back when I used to smoke, and when I was trying one time to quit, I used a patch, to try to quit, a nicotine patch. And I can remember leaving that on one night, and just the wicked dreams. It was crazy, just like really wild. And now my wife uses transdermal, like vitamin supplement. So it's like vitamins and supplements in a patch. So, and she has to remember to take that off before she goes to sleep, because that will give her like wicked, wild, crazy dreams as well if she wears that all night. So like anything transdermal I would avoid while you're sleeping too.
Fair
So,
enough.
but yeah, so that's a really really good question, Princess. I'm glad you asked that.
Yeah, quite
'Cause
interesting.
it can definitely, that's a tough challenge to be in. And I think Ryan hit the nail on the head. One of the most important things you can do is, you know, train yourself to not go to bed thinking, like, being worried about having a nightmare. You know, what you do when what you do right before you go to bed, the thoughts you have right before you go to bed are generally the thoughts that you will carry through the night, and then the first thoughts you have when you wake up as well.
Absolutely.
So, you know, try and, I read something positive. I usually read some kind of affirmation and pray right before
Mhm.
bed.
Oh, yeah,
I,
absolutely.
I visualize my goals. I visualize whatever I'm running for, the dream that I'm running after, I visualize that, and then there's an affirmation, and then prayer, and then
Actually,
that's what I do right before sleeping.
that's a good recommendation. What I would say is fall asleep in prayer. God's not going to be upset at you for not finishing it. Uh,
Ah, yeah, good point.
so, yeah, that's a pretty good one. Fall asleep talking about the things that you're thankful for and things like that. I mean, that's that's a good thought to lead off on because yeah, it's totally true as Joe said. What you fall asleep thinking about is what your mind is going to take and then carry on throughout the night.
Mhm.
At least for the beginning of the night, at that moment, because then it has a thought to start the process of story writing off of. It's kind of interesting that our minds do that, but they do.
Mhm. And what do I do if my kids have nightmares? Depends on the severity of the nightmare, really. I mean, if it's a nightmare where they just kind of woke up barely half awake, then, if I'm available, I will sit with them, for a little while, and try and help them get back to sleep. If it, like, jerks them all the way awake and they're freaking out, you know, then that takes, sitting with them a little bit longer. But, I generally try, you know, if I'm able to do this. Now, my wife generally will do this more than me. Um, but, you know, and it's funny, our oldest son is a sleepwalker, which is interesting.
Oh,
That's a whole other
that's yeah,
topic.
that's fun.
But my wife is a sleepwalker too, and I've done that before too. Usually, I don't sleepwalk unless I'm in this sleep experiment,
Yes, in the
trying to
middle of your
reduce
sleep
the amount of
experiment.
sleep I'm getting.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's just mostly just trying to calm them down. If they're freaking out, it's like, just be there, because then there's somebody else there that's solid, that's there to comfort, and that's kind of one of the beautiful things about being a parent, you know and you can be a rock for your children, you know
Mhm.
at least when they're younger. We still have yet to enter the teenage years, and that'll be fun, I'm sure. But I remember a teenager, and I remember the handful that I was.
Yep.
So,
I was actually one of the good teenagers.
you were. I knew you
Yeah,
when you were a teenager.
that's right. Yeah, I didn't cause much problems.
Yeah.
I was just like, okay, yeah, I'll do that.
I would learn how to live your life from Ryan. You learn
I'm
what to
not,
do
not the
from
greatest.
Ryan, and you learn. See, the
And
only
then you
reason
have a lot to improve on
the only
from
reason
there.
I have anything to say is because I screwed all of it up, and I can tell you what not to do and what I did to change, basically.
If I were you, the first thing I would do is I'd shave this beard off because this just doesn't belong there.
But it looks so
But
good.
I'm me, unfortunately, and that means I'm a little bit too lazy to do that.
I imagine Princess Yellow's not going to struggle with the whether or not to shave the beard issue.
You know, what if she wants a beard? She just can't have one. Yeah, you should. No, I don't even want it. Okay, anyways. So be like Joe and don't grow as Ryan.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Be like Ryan. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so
Hey,
thank you
Nihilus.
for that question. Oh, hey, Nihilus. Long time no see. Welcome. Oh, it's a fight over whether I should keep it or shave it. That's we'll let the opinions be opinions, and everyone can have their own. Whether you like a beard or not, it's all good.
Man, everybody's telling you to shave it. I should grow mine back.
Oh, you can have mine.
That's the beautiful thing about beards. You know, like when you can grow it, you can totally change your look. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of
In
cool.
a couple of days,
Mm-hmm.
or instantly if you shave it off. Like this is what
Yes.
I'd look like without a beard. Way more handsome.
Hey, Mr. Handsome, Mr. Handsome
Thanks.
Pants.
Thanks, Mr. Fancy Hands. So,
Well, at any rate,
so-
Princess, thank you so much for posting, and hopefully we offered something that was helpful to you.
Mhm.